So one of the challenges here is to create random balls appear every 3 seconds or so. So what we're going to look at here is this sprite in particular. So looking at this, we're going to look at a couple different things, but what I want to do before we do that is I actually want to duplicate this sprite in general, and by doing so, by duplicating this, so now I actually have 3 soccer balls. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually change the costumes altogether. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit this, going into the costumes. So now I don't have to re-pick all the code and rewrite all the code. I'm going to have different things happen based off from what they are, but this I can actually pick any of the objects. So I'll pick the baseball for this one. So now I have a soccer ball, I have a baseball. Okay, I can actually get rid of that, and then I'm going to actually do this as well and have this line of code, and instead of having a baseball, I think the other one we can do here is a basketball. Again, you can use any of the other sprites. You can use balls A, B, C, D, and E, but in this case, we're just going to use some actual objects. So as you see, since I duplicated all of these, the scripts are all in there, and they're all actually the exact same. So in this case, to kind of look at this, do we want them all to look the same? That's kind of one of the big pieces here. Do we want them all to move at the same exact speed too? So a lot of these are things that you can change variations of. So here is the big piece where we're going to look at these, is that we're going to show. So we're going to hide and then we're going to show. But based off from the show, we can actually use the looks tab here, and we can actually change our size by, and we could do by 10. A nice thing with this is that you can put an operator in and you can actually pick a random 1 through 10. So based off from this, now your soccer ball will show up at a different random size, anything ranging 1 through 10. So the basketball and this baseball we haven't quite fixed yet. So actually let me change this so they're not all showing up at the same time. So we'll actually have this one wait for, we'll say 20 seconds. And we'll say that we'll have this one wait for 30 seconds. Based off from that, another thing that we do have to do is we do have to change the costume size here. Again, not really too big of a deal, because what we're going to be doing anyways is changing the size and picking a random size, so it's not too influential based off from this, but there's always a good habit to kind of get into here, and then make sure that you reestablish the coordinates just being in the middle here. So looking at this, we have the soccer ball, the baseball, and the basketball. Okay, again, wanting to show any different size, so show, and in this case, we're going to have looks, and we're going to have change size by, and we're going to look at this, and I don't know, you could literally change any of these, but you could change size by 10, or we could pick random 1 through 10. So again, when you look at these, you can see that, okay, well, what's going to happen? So as we look at these, we have our guy start, and now you're going to see different sized objects. So we have a soccer ball and another soccer ball, because the baseballs haven't been released yet. After the first 10 seconds, then they'll start being released. You can see that predominantly are going to be mostly the same size here by the soccer balls, by the looks of things, because we didn't really have them changed by a whole lot. But one thing that we can do here is based off from there is we can change the size again. So instead of picking an actual random size here, what we can have them do, instead of change size by and using this as a multiplier, we can actually use the looks, and we could say set size to, and then again we can have an operator, and we can pick random 1 through, obviously not 10%, but we want to have maybe 120%. So sometimes you might get ones that are a little bit larger than others. So you're going to find a different lines of code. So you can see there's a smaller one, and then you can see that there's a little bit larger one. So by doing that, again, it kind of creates that numality of, okay, other objects showing up at certain times based off from that. But one thing you can do is also, for the random pieces, you can pick random 1 through 10 seconds. So now these are all going to be randomly displaced, and we can do that for all of these. So instead of having these picked, you can do this. If you wanted them all uniformly, you could just duplicate later. That is definitely something you can do. This one, actually, I want to keep these all the same size, so I'm going to switch those out. Timing is unknown. You don't know when they're going to happen. You don't know the size. You don't know what ones are going to be which, if they're going to come out all at the same time or at different times. So this is just another way of kind of randomizing your game to make it a little bit more challenging to the user, because you don't know when they're going to show up. You don't know what size they're going to be when they show up. So you never know. So you can see the soccer ball showed up there. Again, this is a little bit tiny, so you wouldn't want to create those objects that too small based off from those, but those are always something you can change in here. So 1% is obviously ridiculously small, so I wouldn't change it much more than 90 to 120, but again, things that you can change and play around with as the game creator. So there's just a added challenge for the random wall selection of the program.